He's leading a Cup Series race, and he doesn't even know what to do with himself. "I'm leading. What the hell do I do now?" Shane Van Gisbergen barked over the radio, and you could hear the disbelief in his own voice. This is a guy who has won 8 straight road course starts in the Cup Series, a number that borders on absurd. Ovals were supposed to be the other side of the ledger, the place where his road racing pedigree meant nothing. And yet there he was Sunday night at North Wilkesboro Speedway, front and center, mixing it up with Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano for the actual race lead. Not just running well, leading. By the time the checkered flag fell, the headline belonged to someone else. Joey Logano ended a 45-race, winless drought in a performance that left no doubt. He led so much of the field that he was lapping cars running as high as 7th. It was the kind of old-school, long green flag, low-caution racing that NASCAR's return to North Wilkesboro was built to deliver. And depending on who you ask, that authenticity was either exactly what the sport needed or exactly what bored a chunk of the fan base to tears. That debate isn't going away anytime soon. But buried underneath Logano's dominant night was a story that deserves just as much attention because it isn't a one-off. It's a pattern, and patterns in NASCAR tend to mean something. Van Gisbergen crossed the line 5th at North Wilkesboro, tying his career-best oval finish. On paper, 5th doesn't scream statement race, but look at how he got there, and the picture changes fast. During the race's first caution, his team rolled the dice on a 2-tire pit call. It instantly improved his track position and let him slice through a pack of frontrunners he had no business being ahead of on a short track, at least according to the old scouting report on him. From there, he didn't just hang around the top 5, he lived there. NASCAR Insights tracked him running inside the top 5 for 355 laps and inside the top 10 for 442, both personal bests for him on an oval. He also led 49 laps that night, the most he's ever led in a single oval race in his career. This wasn't a fluke draft or a lucky caution. He was genuinely fast, genuinely competitive, and for a stretch of Stage 1, genuinely the man to beat. Let's be clear about what makes Van Gisbergen's road course success so remarkable in the first place. 8 Cup Series starts on road courses, 8 wins. Every single time he's shown up on a road course with a stock car, he has left as the winner. There isn't another active driver on the grid who can say anything close to that. It's the kind of stat that gets thrown around so often it almost loses its shock value, but it shouldn't. It's absurd. And for a long time, that dominance came with an asterisk attached to it, whispered by skeptics who figured he was a specialist and nothing more. A road course ringer who'd never truly cracked the code on ovals, where the racing is a different animal entirely, built on patience, handling through long green flag runs, and knowing exactly when to save your tires and when to send it. That asterisk is looking shakier by the week. Go back to Atlanta, where he finished 6th, then Nashville's Superspeedway, where a smart strategy call put him in position for a 5th-place run. Sandwiched in between those two was an 11th-place finish in the Coca-Cola 600, where he spent the majority of the night comfortably inside the top 10 before the finishing position undersold how competitive he actually was. And now North Wilkesboro, back-to-back top 6 oval finishes, the second one a career-tying result. This isn't a single good night propped up by circumstance. This is a driver quietly building a resume on the tracks that were supposed to be his weakness. And he did it all in a Trackhouse racing car that, by most honest assessments, isn't operating at the level of the sport's true powerhouse organizations right now. That context matters. Van Gisbergen isn't riding shotgun in a super team car that's engineered to contend every single week. He's overachieving, squeezing results out of equipment that doesn't always give him the same ceiling his rivals are working with. That makes the sustained improvement even more impressive, not less. It's also worth remembering what he did the day before North Wilkesboro even happened. In the Craftsman Truck Series race, Van Gisbergen finished 3rd, and he did it by outrunning his own Spire Motorsports teammates. Chase Elliott came home 7th. Carson Hocevar, who actually led 74 laps that day, got tangled up in tire issues and fell all the way back to 27th. Van Gisbergen was the best Spire truck on the racetrack that weekend, in equipment that wasn't even his primary ride. 2 different series, 1 weekend, and he was fast in both of them. Back to that radio call for a second, because it says more than the raw stat line ever could. What the hell do I do now? Isn't the sound of a guy who planned this. It's the sound of a driver who has spent years hearing that ovals aren't his thing, suddenly finding himself out front and genuinely unsure how to process it in real time. There's something honest about that moment. No manufactured confidence, no scripted soundbite. Just a racer being caught off guard by his own speed. And by every account, once the race was over and the result was locked in, he made sure to sit with it and actually enjoy it on a hot, humid night that had already tested every team in the garage. Now, here's where it starts to matter beyond just bragging rights. With that 5th-place finish, Van Gisbergen pushed his cushion over the chase cut line out to 54 points, comfortably ahead of Legacy Motor Club's Eric Jones, who currently sits 17th in the standings. There are only 5 regular season races left on the 2026 calendar before the playoff field locks in. 54 points sounds safe on paper, and in a lot of seasons it would be. But NASCAR points margins have a way of evaporating fast when trouble finds you on the wrong week, so nothing is guaranteed yet for the number 97 team. Still, the trend line is exactly what you want to see if you're Van Gisbergen and Trackhouse right now. Oval performance climbing at precisely the moment it needs to. None of this is to take anything away from the 2 drivers who genuinely dominated the headlines at North Wilkesboro. Logano's win snapped a 45-race drought and looked as complete as a victory gets, lapping cars all the way up into the top 10 by the closing laps. And Ty Gibbs quietly put together one of the more underrated drives of the night, overcoming a speeding penalty on pit road to still claw his way up to a 4th-place finish, a performance that mostly flew under the radar given everything else going on. Both of those stories are worth telling on their own. But Van Gisbergen's night deserves its own spotlight, separate from the winner's circle. He's not there yet on ovals. Nobody's claiming he's suddenly a finished product on the intermediate and short tracks the way he already is on road courses. There's still visible room for growth, still races where the old label is going to look accurate again. But this wasn't an isolated blip. It's the latest data point in a string of them, and every one of those results makes the argument a little harder to dismiss. The driver they said would never translate to ovals just spent a night leading laps against Denny Hamlin and the guy who won the race. However this chase battle plays out over the next 5 weeks, that's not a stat line you can wave away anymore.